He found the lost alien princess, and she asked him what a compass was. The first time I saw her, she looked like a lost kid playing with a bomb. Sunset hit the scrub plains of Alis 4 in streaks of orange and dusty rose, throwing long shadows from the domed survey shed and the skeletal comms towers. I was kneeling beside my rover with my arm half buried in its guts, swearing at a fuel regulator that had decided it was above its pay grade when my wrist unit pinged. Unregistered life form detected, it said. Yeah, join the club, I muttered, wiping grease on my trousers and standing up. The air was that particular frontier chill that slips under your shirt and sets up a cold little homestead along your spine. I scanned the horizon. The outpost landing pad sat empty, the spider leg cranes at rest. The main habitat domes were a kilometer away behind a rocky ridge. This direction, flat, open, nothing but scrub and sand and the occasional rusted survey marker. And her. She was kneeling at the edge of an old impact crater, just 30 meters out, like she'd always been there, and the world had grown around her. Skin the color of twilight over deep water. Long hair, soft and lilac, falling down her back in a straight sheet. Big golden eyes fixed on something in her hands. She couldn't have been more than 8, maybe 9, if the proportions held across species. Thin arms, bare feet, a simple rose-colored shift dress that had no business being on a frontier rock like Alis 4. What the hell? I whispered. My hand drifted towards the sidearm at my hip, stopped halfway. She looked terrified. Not of me, of the thing she was holding. It was a disc, about the size of a dinner plate, old metal etched with lines like an insane clock. A faint green light pulsed at its center, beating faster than my own heart. Every time it flared, the hair on my arms tried to bail out. My wrist unit chimed again, more insistently. Unknown energy signature, possible hazard. The girl turned then, as if she'd heard it too. Her eyes landed on me, her shoulders hunched, but she didn't run. I lifted both hands, palms empty. Hey, I called, forcing my voice into what I hoped was the universal register for I am not going to eat you. You lost? Smooth, Jace. Nailed it. Her gaze flicked from my face to the rover to the distant domes. When she spoke, her voice was soft and careful, like she'd only recently acquired it. Are you human? She asked. Last time I checked, I said, Jace Rowen, Survey Corps. You? She looked down at the disc, as if the answer might be written there. Lyrielle, she said, a daughter of House Sarin, first spire of Lithara. So not local. Okay, Lyrielle, I said slowly. How about you put the glowy thing down before it decides to explode? Her hands tightened around it. I cannot. It woke for me. It does not like anyone else. That sounds concerning. It is worse than concerning, she said gravely. It means I am very, very in trouble. She stood small and straight, the sunset washing her in gold. That's when I saw the faint cuts along her arms. The scorch mark across one bare foot, the line of dried tears along one cheek. The disk's green pulse reflected off the wetness in her eyes. I'd seen enough scared kids on burned-out colony worlds to know the shape of that fear. It hit something deep and old and tired in me. My hand dropped fully away from my pistol. Okay, I said quietly, start at the beginning. What happened? She looked up at the sky. For a second, her markings, faint, glowing lines along her temples and collarbones that I'd assumed were decorative, flared bright cyan. Someone, she whispered, decided they did not want my family to reach your people alive. She told me in pieces at first, words falling out like they were shards of glass she had to spit. A convoy, a diplomatic mission. Her mother's hand squeezing hers as their vessel dropped out of FTL near Alis 4. Then alarms. Fire. The violent lurch of atmosphere where none should be. A woman shouting to get the princess to the pods. Hands pushing her into a chair and strapping her in while the ship screamed around them. And then darkness and heat and falling. Her pod had burned through the thin ALIS 4 sky last night, but the storm cover must have hidden the trail. It had landed just beyond my regular survey sweep. If my rover hadn't thrown a tantrum and forced me to stop here, I might never have seen her. That thought sat badly in my gut. Communication, I asked. Did your pod have a beacon? She shook her head. It is broken. I tried. I do not know how to fix machines. Lucky for you, I do. Her eyes brightened a fraction. You can fix this? She held up the disk. I frowned. I meant the pod, but what is that exactly? She glanced at it again, fear and reverence mixing on her face. It is a star compass, she said, old as the first spires. It is not supposed to light, only the blood of Sauron can wake it, and only in times of great danger, and only when we must find our way home by paths no one else can walk. I stared. That's specific. It glowed when the ship was dying, she whispered. It has not stopped. The disk pulsed, as if agreeing. My wrist unit pinged yet again. I ignored it. So, I said carefully, you're a lost princess with a magic relic, and someone wants you dead badly enough to shoot your ship out of FTL near a fringe world with minimal oversight. I rubbed my face. That's just fantastic. She watched me with that unnervingly direct gaze kids have, even across species. Are you angry? Not at you, I said. Come on, let's get you under a roof before someone else notices that light show. She hugged the disk to her chest. You will not take it away? I don't touch potentially explosive alien heirlooms on first meetings, Honorine, I said. Policy. That earned me the tiniest flickering ghost of a smile. I led her toward the rover, keeping my movement slow so I didn't spook her. She followed close, gaze darting around the outpost like every shadow might bite. Up close, she looked even more fragile. Thin wrists. Dirt smudged along her jaw. Little silver flecks in her irises that caught the light when she blinked. How old are you, Lyrielle? I asked. She considered. By your standards, 11 years? And how many times has someone tried to kill you? She thought again. Including today? Yeah? 3? I stopped walking for a second, then forced my feet to move again. Okay, I said. New plan. We're not just getting you under a roof. We're getting you off this rock. The rover's cabin was barely big enough for one human and a week's worth of junk. With Lyrielle curled in the passenger seat clutching the star compass, it felt even smaller. I strapped her in, then slid behind the controls. Have you ever been in a ground vehicle before? I asked. No, she said, eyes wide. We travel by air skiff or in ships. Well, this one doesn't go up, I said, but she does eventually go forward when she feels like being cooperative. I slapped the console. The rover hummed to life, offended but obedient. As we rolled toward the habitat domes, I opened a channel to outpost control. Rowen to command, I said, got a situation. The line crackled, then resolved into the bored voice of Maris, our comms tech. If this is about requisitions again, Jace, the answer's still no. You can't list coffee as a critical system. You lack vision, I said. Also, that's not why I'm calling. You're going to want to alert the Union liaison. I've got a survivor from an alien diplomatic convoy and a potential act of interstellar terrorism on our doorstep. Silence. Then, repeat that. I summarized. Shorter than I wanted, longer than she had patience for. Bring her in, Maris said finally, voice sharper now. Straight to Med. I'll ping the liaison and station security. I glanced at Lyrielle. Her fingers tightened on the disk. Hey, I said softly. You holding up? I do not know, she said. What does holding up feel like? Like you're scared and tired and kind of want to throw up, but you're still doing what needs doing. Yes, she said, I am holding up. The rover rolled through the perimeter gate and into the outpost proper. Habitat domes gleamed dull white, connected by flexible tunnels. Antennae bristled from the central command module like the whiskers of a huge metal cat. A few workers paused to stare as we passed, partly at the unfamiliar kid in my passenger seat, partly because I was never allowed to bring anyone interesting back and now I'd broken the unspoken rule. I parked outside Doors hissed open, releasing a breath of sterilized air. Lyrielle hesitated at the threshold. It smells like the ship's infirmary, she said quietly. That bad, huh? She nodded. Look, I said, crouching so we were eye level. These people won't hurt you. They work for the Union. Their worst crime is overcharging for bandage synth. Will they try to take the star compass? They can demand all they want, I said. You don't hand it over unless you want to, understand? Her brows drew together. You are not my guardian. The words stung more than they should have. No, I said, but I'm the guy who found you. That comes with some responsibilities. She studied me for another heartbeat, then nodded solemnly. I will trust you until you prove unworthy. Harsh, I said, reasonable, come on. Inside Med was a cramped maze of white panels and hollow displays. Dr. Ree, our chief medic, stepped forward as soon as we entered. She took one look at Lyrielle, and her whole demeanor shifted from mild annoyance to razor focus. How long has she been out there? Ree demanded, guiding Lyrielle onto a diagnostic bed. At least a day, I said, in a pod crash, minor injuries, major trauma. And the device? Lyrielle's hands tightened. Is mine, she said. Ree held up her hands. All right. No one touches what the glowing alien princess doesn't want touched. I've learned from past mistakes. Maris slipped in from the hall, her usual frizzed hair shoved under a hastily donned cap. Union liaison's on her way, she said, and, station chief wants to see you, Jace. Of course she did. Don't go far, Lyrielle said suddenly. Her fingers had caught the cuff of my sleeve. I looked down at her hand, then at her face. I'll be back, I said. You can time me. She considered this. How long? An hour, 2 tops. She studied the compass disc. The green light pulsed once, twice, as if thinking. If you're not back in 2 hours, she said, I will assume you have been captured and I will find you. Ree raised a brow. I like her. Me too, I said, which is why I'd prefer that not to be necessary. I let Maris drag me out into the corridor. The doors hissed shut behind us. So, she said as we walked, you just found a lost alien royal? Yeah. On your lunch break? Yeah. Jace? Yeah. Next time you're bored, just play cards with the mining crew like everyone else. We reached the station chief's office. The door was already open. Inside, Chief Alvarado, lean, gray-haired, eyes like worn knives, stood with her arms folded. Beside her was the Union liaison, Ambassador Dyron, tall and pale, with the kind of half-smile bureaucrats wore when they smelled opportunity. Mr. Rowen, Alvarado said, you've had an eventful day. Not on purpose, I said. Sir? She motioned for me to sit. I stayed standing. Maris briefed us, Dyron said smoothly. A lone survivor of an unidentified alien delegation, claiming royal lineage, bearing a powerful artifact with unknown capabilities. Do you have any idea what this could mean? Yes, I said. It means someone tried very hard to start a war where no one was looking. Dyron's smile didn't reach his eyes. Or it means we have an unparalleled opportunity to secure favor with a rising power. I frowned. She's a kid. She is a key, he said, to whatever power her people wield. You said the device she carries reacts only to her? I said what she told me, I said. And I also said I'm not letting anyone shove her into a lab because they're curious. Alvarado watched us both, her face unreadable. What do you propose, Mr. Rowen? She asked. Get a message out to her people, I said, quietly under the table. Whoever shot her convoy down might be listening on the official lines. In the meantime, we keep her safe off the public grid and I stay with her. She trusts me. Dyron's brows rose. You presume much for a surveyor? I was infantry before I was Survey Corps, I said. I know the look of a target waiting to happen. She is one. Alvarado drummed her fingers on the desk. Ambassador, how fast can you get a discreet signal out? She asked. If I use Union channels, they're monitored, Dyron said, but there are unofficial relays, old smugglers' arrays. I know people. You always do, Alvarado said. He inclined his head. Do it, she said. Mr. Rowen, you're assigned to protective detail until this is resolved. Don't make me regret indulging your conscience. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Yes, Chief. As I turned to leave, Dyron added, And Rowen? Yeah? Be careful how close you let her cling to you, he said softly. When the time comes to hand her back, it will hurt more. I thought about Lyrielle's small hand gripping my sleeve, the way the star compass pulsed like a heartbeat against her chest. Some things are worth the hurt, I said. His almost smile twitched, like he'd been expecting that answer. Spoken like a true human, he murmured. Back in Med, Lyrielle sat cross-legged on the bed, a bandage on her foot, her hair brushed and braided with gentle efficiency by Rhee's nurse. The star compass rested in her lap, glowing softly. She looked up as soon as I walked in. You returned, she said. On time even, I said. Doctor treating you okay? They poked me with needles, she said, but they apologized first. That's the best you can hope for. Rhee shot me a look. I heard that. I leaned against the wall, folding my arms. All right, Princess, I said, here's the situation. We're trying to contact your people without letting the bad guys know you're alive. Until then, you stay here, you stay hidden, and I stay with you. Her eyes widened. Always? Until it's safe not to, I said. She seemed to weigh that. And if it is never safe? Then we improvise, I said. It's what humans do best. She considered that, then nodded. Very well, you will be my Jace. I blinked. Your what? My Jace, she repeated as if it were obvious. If I tell anyone else about you, I will say, this is my Jace. Heat crawled up my neck. Rhee smirked. Is that a problem? Lyrielle asked, suddenly wary. No, I said quickly. Just new. You may also be my shield, she added thoughtfully, if you wish. Promotion accepted. The star compass pulsed, casting a green sheen across her face. For a heartbeat, the room felt smaller, like the air itself was listening. You said it woke because you were in danger, I said. Has it done anything else? Sometimes, she said slowly. It shows me lines of light when I close my eyes, paths through stars, as if someone drew roads in the dark. Can you follow those paths? In a ship, she said, not in my head. Let's stick to physical travel then, I said, until further notice. The next 36 hours blurred. Dyron worked his shadow contacts. Alvarado quietly shifted personnel schedules so only people she trusted were anywhere near Med. I slept in a chair beside Lyrielle's bed, waking every time she twitched at a nightmare. She never cried where anyone could see. When the signal came in, it arrived as a tight beam burst from an unregistered ship slipping just into the edge of our gravity well. Maris intercepted it and routed it directly to Alvarado's office. They called me in. On the hollow, a woman appeared, blue skin like Lyrielle's, but deeper, older. Her hair was bound in intricate coils, and a circlet of dark metal rested on her brow. Her eyes, the same molten gold as the girl's, looked like they'd seen too much in too little time. I am Serai of the Outer Guard, she said without preamble. I speak for House Sarin, under oath and fire. The title meant nothing to me, but the weight in her voice did. Alvarado nodded. We have Lyrielle. Relief cracked through Serai's composure for half a second. She lives. She does, I said, scared, stubborn, 10 times braver than I am. Serai's gaze shifted to me. It felt like being assessed by a blade. You're the human who found her. Jace Rowen, I said, at your service. You kept her alive. I tried. Her eyes softened a fraction. Then, House Sarin is in your debt. Dyron made a small pleased noise. Perhaps we can discuss. Serai cut him off. Later, I send coordinates. I will come alone in a cloaked vessel. No escorts. We cannot risk drawing attention. The ones who attacked us still hunt the girl. Who are they? I asked. Her jaw tightened. Traitors. A faction within our own ranks allied with powers in your space. They seek to control what Lyrielle carries. The compass, remember I said. Her gaze sharpened. She told you of it. She did. I haven't laid a finger on it. Keep it that way, Serai said, until I arrive. How long? Alvarado asked. 2 of your days, Serai said. Perhaps less if the currents are kind. The hollow winked out. I exhaled slowly. She seems intense. She seems like a person who has watched her world catch fire, Dyron said. Same thing, I muttered. Those 2 days crawled. We kept Lyrielle indoors. Rumors spread through the station anyway about the Glow Kid, about the mysterious ship spotted on the fringe of our sensors, about impending promotions if we played this right. I'd been on enough fronts to know the smell of a situation about to go sideways. On the second night, I woke in the chair to find Lyrielle sitting upright, eyes wide open, the compass in her hands glowing brighter than I'd ever seen. Jace, she whispered, they are here? Serai? I asked, rubbing sleep from my face. Her head shook. No. The alarms began to scream. Red lights strobed across the medbay walls. The soft hum of equipment shifted to a panicked whine as emergency protocols kicked in. Overhead, the PA crackled with Alvarado's voice, more clipped than I'd ever heard it. All personnel to lockdown stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a... The ceiling shuddered. Dust sifted down. Lyrielle clutched the compass tighter. Its green glow had turned sharp, almost white, and the metal casing vibrated faintly in her hands. They found me, she breathed. The wrong ones. I was on my feet before my brain caught up. Ree! I shouted. Seal the bay! The doctor appeared from the adjoining room, eyes wide. Already on it. She slapped the control panel. The doors hissed, heavy locks sliding into place. What's hitting us? I demanded. Unregistered ship dropped out of nowhere, Ree said. Didn't answer hails. Went straight for our comm tower. Sensors say it's small, fast, and very, very mean. Explosions thudded through the hull like someone kicking a metal drum. The medbay lights flickered. Lyrielle slid off the bed. We must move. We're in the safest place on the station, I said. She shook her head, markings flaring. They will aim for where I am. The compass is loud. It calls to them. Ree swore under her breath. If they breach the outer shell... They'll go for the command center, I said, mind spinning through the layout. And then for here. My wrist unit chimed. Private channel. Alvarado. Rowen, she said, no preamble. We've got boarders. How many? At least a dozen, heavily armed. They knew exactly where to hit. Her voice dropped. Someone jammed. Our distress call. Inside job. Perfect. What's your priority? I asked. Keeping Lyrielle alive, she said. Get her out of med. Now. They'll target central modules first. Take access corridor 9 to the old geology wing. No one uses it. I'll route security away from your path. What about you? I asked. I'll try not to die. Move. The channel cut. Ree met my eyes. You heard the boss. Yeah. This is a terrible plan, she said. Also, yeah. She grabbed a med pack and shoved it into my hands. If you get her killed, I will haunt you. I'll add it to the list of things I'm afraid of. She squeezed Lyrielle's shoulder. You listen to your Jace, she said. Lyrielle nodded solemnly, then slid her small hand into mine. The compass continued to vibrate like a live wire. Ree opened the secondary exit, an emergency hatch leading into a maintenance shaft. No windows, no direct line of sight. Perfect for cowards and people who didn't want to be shot. We slipped inside. The hatch sealed behind us. The shaft was narrow, lit by thin strips of blue emergency glow. I led the way, Lyrielle close at my heels. the compass casting eerie green reflections on the metal. As we jogged, the station shuddered around us, groaning under impacts. "Why do they want the compass so badly?" I asked over my shoulder. "It is a map," she said, "but also a key. It shows hidden paths through the void, older than our recorded history. Whoever controls it can move where others cannot. Trade, war, escape. It changes everything." "Okay," I said. "So yes, that would motivate some murder." She hesitated. "And there is more?" "Of course there is." "It is also a promise," she whispered, "that the blood of Sarin will always find their way home, even if the skies burn." I looked back at her. Her eyes were too old for 11. "How long have they been trying?" I asked. "A long time," she said. We reached the junction for Corridor 9. The hatch slid open reluctantly, as if it hadn't been used in years. Dust floated in the air beyond. "This way," I said. We slipped into the corridor. It was quiet, the noise of battle muffled by layers of bulkheads. The only sound was the distant rumble of distant impacts and Lyrielle's quick breathing. "Jace," she whispered. "Yeah?" "If I am caught, they will use me to open the paths," she said. "They will take me to the dark roots. No stars, no return." "That's not going to happen. You cannot promise that." "Watch me," I said. Her hand tightened around mine. Halfway down the corridor, a door slid open ahead. 3 figures stepped out. They wore Union security armor, ordinary, familiar, but their eyes behind their visors were wrong, too cold, too eager. The one in front lifted his rifle, then paused. "Well," he said, voice filtering through the helmet modulator, "there's the prize." I pushed Lyrielle behind me. "Security's compromised," I muttered. "Fantastic." The lead guard tilted his head. "Stand aside, Rowen. Ambassador's orders." "Funny," I said. "He forgot to send me that memo." "He doesn't trust you?" the guard said. "You're sentimental. Get out of the way." I glanced at their insignia. All 3 had been on station as long as I had. They'd played cards with me, swapped bad jokes in the mess, apparently taken side gigs as traitors. "Lyrielle?" I murmured. "Run when I say." She pressed against my back. "Where?" "Away," I said. "Anywhere." The guard's finger tightened on the trigger. I dropped. The first shot went high, scorching the wall. I yanked Lyrielle down with me, hitting the deck hard. Pain flared in my shoulder. I rolled, pulling my sidearm free, and fired twice. One guard went down, armor sparking. The other 2 scattered, taking cover in doorways. "Jace!" Lyrielle cried. "Stay low!" I shouted back. The corridor erupted into a stuttering exchange of energy fire. One bolt hit the panel beside my head, filling the air with the smell of melted plastic. I swore and crawled behind a support strut. "These rounds are set to stun," the lead guard called. "We're not here to kill you, just her." "That doesn't make me feel better," I yelled. "Last chance," he said. "Move aside. No one has to know you resisted." "That's the problem," I said. "I'd know." He sighed. "Humans." I leaned out, fired again. He ducked back. The other guard advanced on the opposite side, trying to flank. Lyrielle's hand touched my ankle. "Jace," she whispered, urgent, "give me your weapon." "What?" "No." "I can help," she said. "You forget what I am." "A kid," I said. "That's plenty." "I am Sarin," she hissed. "I am not fragile glass. Give me your weapon." Her eyes blazed in the dim corridor. The compass in her other hand flared, casting harsh green shadows. I hesitated for a single heartbeat. Then I flipped the pistol and pressed it into her palm. "Keep your head down," I said. "Aim for armor, not faces." She nodded, lips pressed tight. As the advancing guard leaned around his cover, Lyrielle fired. The recoil nearly knocked her over, but the bolt hit true, right in the chest plate. The guard convulsed and dropped, stunned. The leader swore. "You little—" I took the distraction and lunged, tackling him as he turned. We hit the deck hard, his rifle skittering away. He swung a gauntleted fist at my jaw. I caught his wrist, twisted, felt something pop. He howled. "You were right," I grunted. "These are set to stun." I slammed my fist into his helmet. The visor cracked. He went limp. Lyrielle stared, breathing hard, gun still clutched in her hand. "You did good," I said, hauling myself upright. "Now we really need to move." We bounded over the fallen guards. I grabbed their wrist units and slapped them into manual lock. If they woke up before anyone found them, they'd have to break their own hands to call for help. 10 meters later, my comm buzzed. "Rowen," Alvarado said. "Report." "Security's compromised," I said. "We ran into 3 friendlies who definitely weren't. They wanted Lyrielle alive." "Figures," she muttered. "We've got hostiles in the command module. Deeran's missing. I've lost contact with half my people." "Any sign of our friendly neighborhood alien ship?" I asked. "Still circling," she said. "Either they're waiting for something or their FTL drive's worse than yours." "Serai?" Lyrielle asked, leaning close to hear. "Negative," Alvarado said, "and no sign of her yet. We're on our own." The corridor shook again. This time the floor bucked like a kicked animal. Lyrielle stumbled. I caught her. "That wasn't a hit," I said. "That was docking." "Boarding tube breach," Alvarado confirmed grimly. "They're on the station." "Any good news?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You're still breathing. Keep it that way." The line cut. "We need to get out of the main modules," I said. "If they take the station, they'll sweep every room." "Where can we go?" Lyrielle whispered. I thought of the old geology wing, of the abandoned lava tubes in the plateau beyond the outpost, of the rover still parked near Med. "Underground," I said. "They can't shoot what they can't find." We reached the hatch at the end of Corridor 9. Beyond lay a freight elevator that hadn't been serviced in months. I pried the doors open manually. The platform waited below. The descent felt like a slow fall into a different world. The elevator shuddered, cables creaking, until it reached the bottom with a teeth-rattling thud. The geology wing smelled like dust and old rock. Most of the equipment had been stripped when the mining operation moved to richer veins, leaving only a few scanners and a hover sled in the corner. I pointed at it. "There. Ride for 2. Lyrielle clutched the compass. "Where does it go?" "Out a service tunnel," I said, climbing onto the sled and helping her up. "Then into the lava tubes. Think of them as caves that used to be very exciting." "That does not make me feel better." "I'm not trying to," I said. "Hold on." The sled hummed to life. We shot down the tunnel, lights flickering past. Behind us, somewhere up there, the station was being carved apart by people who believed the universe should belong to whoever had the strongest grip on its secrets. Down here, it was just us, the dark and the low buzz of the compass. After 10 minutes of winding descent, the tunnel opened into a wide cavern where ancient lava had carved smooth, sinuous walls. The sled glided to a stop at the edge of a ravine. A faint breeze brushed my face. There was an opening somewhere ahead. "We walk." "From here, yeah," I said. Lyrielle hopped down, bare feet silent on the stone. "Jace." "Yeah?" "If we do not escape," she said quietly, "they will use me to find the hidden paths. Many will die, maybe worlds." "I know," I said. "You should leave me," she said, "or hide yourself. You owe me nothing." Anger flared in my chest, not at her, at the idea. "I owe you everything," I said roughly. "I got in the rover this morning expecting to complain about sand and maybe yell at a malfunctioning sensor. Instead, I met you. I made a choice when I put you in that passenger seat. I'm not taking it back because things got ugly." Her eyes shone, reflecting the faint green of the compass. "This is human stubbornness," she said. "Yeah. I think I like it." We followed the faint breeze until we found the opening, a narrow passage leading up toward the plateau above the outpost. If we could reach the surface without being spotted, maybe we could slip far enough away that when Serai finally arrived, she'd pick up the compass's signal instead of the ambushers. Unless they jammed that too. Unless she'd been ambushed as well. Unless... "Stop," Lyrielle said suddenly. I froze. "What is it?" She held up the compass. Its light had shifted, no longer just pulsing. Now it pointed a steady beam of green slicing across the dark tunnel. "It is showing a path," she whispered. "Not to my home. To something else." "Something closer?" I asked. "Yes." "Do you know what?" She shook her head. "But it feels safe." The tunnel shook. A distant boom rolled through the rock like thunder underwater. "They've breached another module," I muttered. "We're out of time." I looked at the compass's beam, at Lyrielle's face. "Okay," I said, "when we follow it." "Even though you do not know where it leads?" she asked. "Especially because I don't know," I said. "The people trying to kill you know every corridor in that station. They don't know this." We turned away from the breeze and deeper into the dark, following a green line drawn by an ancient promise. After a while, my sense of direction gave up entirely. The tunnel twisted and dipped, sometimes narrowing so much I had to turn sideways. Lyrielle moved with surprising surety, trusting the compass more than her own eyes. "Are you tired?" I asked after what felt like hours. "Yes," she said. "Are you?" "Yes." "Will we stop?" "No." "Good," she said. "If we stop, I will fall asleep on your arm and then you will complain." She wasn't wrong. The air gradually grew cooler, then fresher. The compass's beam brightened. "We are close," Lyrielle said, "to something. Listen." At first I heard nothing but our breathing and the faint scrape of boots on stone. Then, very faint, a new sound. A distant hum. Not mechanical. Not entirely natural either. Like a crystal being sung to, the tunnel opened suddenly into a vast chamber. I stopped dead. We stood at the edge of a subterranean lake. Its surface was still as glass, reflecting a dome of stone studded with crystals that glowed faint, pale blue. In the center of the lake, rising from the water like some sleeping machine, was a structure. Tall, angular, half organic, half metal. Dark surfaces laced with veins of dull silver. It looked older than anything on this planet had a right to be. Lyrielle stepped forward, awe softening her face. "I know this," she whispered, "from stories." "Talk to me," I said. "Before we built the spires, before we tamed the skies, there were the pathmakers," she said. "Those who carved safe roads through the void. They left anchors on worlds they favored, hidden veins between stars." I stared at the structure, at the way the compass's beam pointed directly at it. "You're saying this is a gate?" I asked. "Not a gate," she said. "A door. The compass is the key." "That's worse." "No," she said quietly. "It is hope." Footsteps echoed suddenly from the tunnel behind us. Lyrielle spun. Her markings flared. Voices floated through the dark. "Telling you the readings spike every few seconds. They went this way." Rowen always did like stupid detours. Traitors. They'd followed our trail. I grabbed Lyrielle's shoulder. "We don't have time for ritual or debate," I said. "Can you use it?" She looked at the structure, then at the compass, then at me. "If I do, we may go somewhere very far," she said, "and we may not return." "Better than staying here and definitely dying," I said. The compass pulsed between her hands. The approaching footsteps quickened. She took a breath. "Stay close," she whispered. Then she ran toward the edge of the lake. For a second, I thought she meant to jump straight in. Instead, she stepped onto the water as if it were solid. Light flared under her feet, forming a path of glowing hexagons leading straight to the structure. She glanced back at me. "Hurry!" I swore and followed. The water held, sort of. It flexed under my boots like thick gel, but it didn't break. Behind us, figures burst into the cavern, silhouettes against the tunnel glow. Someone shouted. Energy bolts sizzled, hitting the water's surface and dissipating in useless steam. We reached the base of the structure. Up close, it towered above us, humming with a low, patient power. "Where do I put it?" Lyrielle asked, voice shaking. A panel unfolded from the structure's surface, revealing a shallow circular indentation. The compass vibrated harder. "Pretty sure that's your slot," I said. Footsteps thudded on the water path behind us. More shouts. A bolt scorched past my ear. "Any time now." Lyrielle lifted the compass. "Jace?" "Yeah?" "If this goes wrong," she whispered, "thank you for the balloon you did not give me." "What?" She slammed the compass into the slot. Light exploded. I had time for exactly one thought: this was a terrible idea, before the world vanished. The cavern, the lake, the shouting traitors, the station somewhere above our heads, all of it tore away like old paper. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but white and the sensation of moving in every direction at once. Then we slammed back into reality. I hit something hard and metallic. My lungs forgot their job for a second. When I finally sucked in air, it was cold, dry, and tasted faintly of ozone. I rolled onto my back. A ceiling arched above me, smooth, dark panels laced with glimmering lines. No crystals, no rock, no familiar station architecture. Definitely not Alis 4. "Jace?" Lyrielle crouched beside me, hair tumbling loose, eyes wide. She looked as stunned as I felt, but not hurt. "You okay?" I rasped. "Yes," she said. "I think we moved." "Yeah," I croaked. "Somewhere that isn't a lava tube, which I will appreciate once my organs realign." I pushed myself up. We stood on a raised platform in the center of a circular chamber. The walls curved outward, broken at intervals by tall archways. Beyond them, I glimpsed more corridors, dimly lit. In the platform's center, the star compass sat in its slot, still pulsing. The structure around it was simpler here, like we were looking at the other side of the mechanism. "What is this place?" I asked. Lyrielle turned slowly, awe widening her eyes. "A way hall," she whispered. "A resting point between paths." "Between where and where?" "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere." I didn't like that answer. "At least the traitors didn't come through with us," I said. "Not yet," she said. "Not?" She pointed at the compass. Its pulses were slowing, the light dimming but not going out. "The path remains open for a time," she said. "They might find the door, or they might not. The currents are fickle." "That's reassuring." "It should not be," she said. I was about to ask her how to close the path when a new sound cut through the chamber, a low hum rising in pitch like a ship's engine spinning up. Except it wasn't coming from the door mechanism. It was coming from above. We both tilted our heads. Through a circular opening in the ceiling, until now dark and invisible, light flared, followed by the familiar silhouette of a small ship's ventral hatch. A docking clamp extended with smooth precision. A moment later, a ladder descended, hitting the platform with a clang. A figure climbed down, blue skin, gold eyes, hair bound in tight coils, armor that looked grown rather than forged, dark and matte, with lines that caught the light like buried stars. Serai of the outer guard dropped onto the platform, landing in a crouch. She rose smoothly, gaze sweeping the chamber, assessing. Her eyes found Lyrielle. For the first time since I'd seen her hollow, her face broke. "Lyri," she breathed. Lyrielle launched herself forward. The compass, freed from its slot, swung on its chain against her chest as she collided with Serai. The older woman scooped her up, armor and all, holding her so tightly I could hear the breath wheeze out of both of them. "I could not find you," Serai whispered into her hair. The wreckage scattered. The signals were ash. I feared. "I fell," Lyrielle mumbled into her shoulder, "but Jace caught me." Serai's gaze snapped to me over the top of the girl's head. I straightened instinctively. Up close, she was a lot. Taller than me by a few centimeters, built like someone who'd won most of her fights and walked away from the rest. Her markings were sharper than Lyrielle's. 3 clean lines along each temple and 2 along her throat, pulsing faintly with a deep amber light. "Jace Rowen," she said. "Serai," I replied. "Welcome to wherever we are." Her eyes flicked to the compass, then the structure. Understanding slid into place. You used the Pathmaker, she said to Lyrielle, alone. I was not alone, Lyrielle said. Jace was with me and the others were close. Serai's jaw tightened. Others? Traitors, I said. They hit the station, tried to take her. We ran. She lowered Lyrielle gently to the platform and stepped toward me, close enough that I could see the tiny scars along her knuckles. You kept her alive, she said quietly. Twice now. I had help, I said. Your people built great escape rooms. Her lips twitched, almost a smile quickly strangled. You risked yourself for her, she said. She's 11, I said, and I like her. Lyrielle beamed. Serai studied me for another long second, then inclined her head. Then you have my thanks, she said, and my respect. I tried not to stare at the word respect hanging between us. A few days ago, I'd been arguing with a rover. Now an alien bodyguard with eyes like supernovas was offering me respect. Where exactly are we? I asked. A way hall hidden in the void, Serai said, anchored between your world and ours. Few know of it. Fewer can reach it. You should not be here. That's been the theme of my week, I said. She glanced at the ceiling hatch. My ship answered the compass's call. When I entered the outer orbit of Alis 4, I felt it. The old paths woke. Can you take us to your home? Lyrielle asked. Serai's face darkened. Home is not safe. Lyrielle's fingers brushed the compass. Because of them. Yes, Serai said of the ones who burned our convoy. They have allies in your union, Rowen. They knew our route, our codes. If we return by the old ways, they will see the ripples. So we're stuck in an off-the-map space hallway while murderers play tag with two governments, I said. Great. We will not remain, Serai said, but we must choose our exit carefully. Lyrielle stepped between us, looking up at Serai with fierce determination. We cannot stay hiding, she said. If they keep hunting, they will hurt others. Jace's people. Ours. Serai's eyes softened. Little star, this is not your burden. It is my compass, Lyrielle said. My blood woke it. My house holds the duty. I will not run forever. Sounds familiar, I murmured. Both of them looked at me. What? I said. I admire consistency. Serai's mouth quirked. Humans? She said, almost fond. Before we could debate further, the platform shivered. I looked back at the Pathmaker. Its surface was lighting again. Lyrielle's hand flew to the compass. They found us, she whispered. Serai spun toward the mechanism, hand dropping to the hilt of a blade at her hip. The traitors? Or their friends, I said. Can they follow through the same door? Only if they had a lock on when we left, Serai said, or if someone guided them. The Pathmaker's surface brightened, patterns flowing across it like liquid metal. Is there any way to shut it off, Uskni? I asked. Yes, Serai said. But if I seal it fully, we lose this anchor. We'll be flung back into normal space at a random point. Define random, I said. Anywhere within a sphere of several light years, she said. That is not a small sphere. No. The Pathmaker hummed higher. A crack of light ripped through its center. Silhouettes started to form. We don't have a choice, I said. We can't fight whoever's coming and keep Lyrielle safe on an open platform. Serai's jaw clenched. If I sever the path while they are mid-transit, they might be lost to the void. So, we win twice, I said. She stared at me. You are very quick to accept annihilation. They tried to kill a child, I said. My sympathy is low. Her eyes searched mine. Whatever she saw there must have convinced her. Get her to the ship, she said. Strap in. If this goes wrong, the way hall may tear itself apart. Wait, I said. What about you? I will seal the door, she said. Let's go. She turned back to the Pathmaker. Her armor's markings flared brighter as she raised both hands, palms splayed toward the mechanism. The air around her shimmered. Come, Lyrielle said, tugging my sleeve. We scrambled up the ladder into Serai's ship. The interior was compact, functional, and worn, with the personal touches of someone who lived more in transit than at rest. Lyrielle moved through it with the ease of familiarity, leading me to a pair of crash seats near the central console. "Straps," she said, climbing into hers. I buckled in, fingers fumbling a little. Through the cockpit's transparent canopy, I could still see the platform below. Serai stood at its center, framed by the pulsing lines of the Pathmaker. Figures were starting to emerge from the widening tear, distorted, half-formed. Serai spread her arms. Her markings blazed. The ship shook. "What is she doing?" I asked. "Channeling," Lyrielle whispered. "The guard are trained to work with the old paths. They can bend them. A little." "Define a little." "Enough to break bones," she said. "Sometimes enough to break ships." On the platform, the first of the intruders fully resolved. A tall, armored figure with the insignia Lyrielle had described in broken whispers. A jagged crescent over a hollow circle. He raised a weapon, and Serai slammed her palms together. Light exploded from the Pathmaker, not outward but inward, imploding. The figures half emerged from the tear screamed, their shapes warping. The lead intruder reached for Serai, hand stretching, then shredding into a smear of light. The tear collapsed. The Pathmaker went dark. For a terrifying second, so did everything else. The chamber, the ship, even the faint hum of the engines, all of it vanished into a silence that felt like being buried alive in nothing. Then the ship's systems rebooted, flickering back to life. Serai staggered. I unbuckled without thinking. "Jace," Lyrielle protested, "well, we are not stable." "Neither is she," I said. I threw the hatch open and half climbed, half dropped back onto the platform. Serai knelt on one knee, breathing hard, one hand braced on the now dark surface of the Pathmaker. Her markings had dimmed to a dull, unsteady ember. "Hey," I said gently, "still with us?" She looked up. Sweat slicked her brow. "I am intact," she said. "The same cannot be said for our uninvited guests." I glanced at the Pathmaker. The metal was cracked in places, faint wisps of smoke drifting from hairline fractures. "Did we just kill them?" I asked. "If they were fully within the threshold when it collapsed." "Yes," she said. "If they were not, they are elsewhere." "That's vague." "The void is vague," she said. I offered her my hand. After a heartbeat, she took it, letting me help her up. "You should not have come back for me," she said quietly. "That's a popular opinion," I said. "I'm ignoring it." Her gaze held mine, steady and sharp. "You are either very brave," she said, "or very foolish." "Those aren't mutually exclusive in human," I said. Something like amusement flickered in her eyes. "So I am learning." Lyrielle popped her head out of the hatch. "Are you finished deciding if he is foolish?" she demanded. "Because the ship is making a sad noise." Serai exhaled, a small huff that might have been a laugh in another life. "We broke the anchor," she said. "The Wayhall will not hold long without a stable path. We must leave." She staggered as we turned toward the ladder. I steadied her without thinking, hand at her elbow. For a moment, energy sparked where our skin met, like static, but warmer. She glanced down at my hand, then up at my face. "Thank you," she said. "Any time," I said and meant it. We scrambled back into the ship. Serai slid into the pilot's seat, fingers flying over the controls. Lyrielle strapped in again, clutching the compass. "Where are we going?" I asked, fastening my harness. "Away," Serai said. "Far enough that by the time they find the Wayhall ruins, we will be ghosts in their wake." "Specific," I said. She keyed in a series of coordinates that made no sense to me. Outside, the chamber walls began to tremble. Cracks spiderwebbed across the stone. The lake below the platform sloshed violently as if something huge shifted underneath. The engines roared. "We will ride what remains of the path to the edge of Letharan space," Serai said. "From there, we improvise." Lyrielle shot me a quick, small grin. "She has learned your word," she said. The ship lifted off the platform, rising toward the ceiling hatch. As we cleared the opening, the Wayhall below us groaned like a dying animal. "Hold on," Serai said. The stars outside blurred. The ship leapt. I've done FTL transitions dozens of times. They're usually controlled, structured jumps through mapped corridors. This wasn't that. This felt like grabbing the tail of a comet and hoping it didn't notice. The universe stretched. Colors bled into one another. My stomach tried to leave my body. And then, abruptly, it was over. Stars snapped back into sharp points. A streak of blue-white light dwindled behind us like a closing wound. Status? I managed. Alive, Serai said. Ship intact. Systems. Mostly behaving. Lyrielle's markings brightened. Where are we? Serai brought up a hollow of the surrounding space. A few distant stars. A gas giant with pale rings. No major traffic lanes. Near the border of our territory, she said, but off the usual routes. We are inconvenient to find. Good, I said. I'd like to stay inconvenient. She turned in her seat to face us fully. We have a choice, she said. We can go to my people, present Lyrielle and the compass, demand justice, but if the council is compromised, as we suspect, we may simply hand her back into the hands that tried to kill her. Option 2? I asked. We vanish, she said. Hide in the cold places between stars, raise our banners there, gather those we trust, strike back later. Lyrielle frowned. You would make us ghosts. For a time, Serai said, until it is safe to be fire again. Lyrielle looked at me. What do humans do when their houses burn and their leaders betray them? I thought of old wars, of scattered colonies, of people huddled around makeshift tables, drawing lines on maps with shaking hands. We build something new, I said, usually out of whatever scraps are left. Would you do that now? She asked. With you? I asked. Yes? I looked at Serai. Her face was composed, but her eyes gave her away. She wanted to keep Lyrielle safe. That urge warred with everything else she'd been trained to do: obey, report, stand straight in the line of command. I'm just one guy with a busted shoulder and a knack for bad ideas, I said. But if you're asking if I'll help you build something that isn't run by the people who tried to murder a kid, yeah, I'm in. Serai's gaze held mine for a long, quiet moment. Your union will mark you a deserter, she said. A traitor? A criminal? Wouldn't be my first demerit, I said. Besides, if they're working with the people who did this, I don't much care what they call me. Lyrielle's hand slipped into mine again. It will not be forever, she said. One day we will go back, with proof and strength and allies. We will burn out the rot. There's that Sarin stubbornness, I said. She squeezed my fingers. I learned from humans. Something warm and dangerous settled in my chest. Serai nodded slowly. Then we vanish, she said. For now. We will find the old outposts, places the pathmakers used and my people forgot. We will build quiet, train, watch, wait. When the time is right, we will cut out the traitors at the root. She keyed a new course into the nav. The compass, still hanging against Lyrielle's chest, pulsed in quiet agreement, lines of light dancing across its surface. Rowen, Serai said, you will be our human liaison. You know your species' habits, their blind spots, their strengths. We will need that. Promotion accepted, I said, again. And Jace? Yes? She hesitated, the faintest hint of color touching her cheeks. You will also be my Jace, she said. It hit harder than I expected, not the words themselves, but the way she said them, careful, deliberate, as if she were borrowing Lyrielle's language and making it her own. My mouth went dry. Is that a formal title? It is a promise, she said softly, that I will not forget what you risked, that when we build what comes next, you will not stand outside it looking in. You will stand beside us. Lyrielle grinned. Now you are ours twice. Possessive, aren't you? I said weakly. Yes, Serai said. We have learned from humans. The ship surged forward, engines singing. Ahead, the stars stretched out, uncertain, dangerous, full of dark corners where old paths might still linger. Behind us, 2 governments scrambled to make sense of a missing princess, a vanished traitor faction, and one inexplicably absent surveyor. They would tell stories. They'd say the girl died, or was taken, or that the Union covered it all up. They'd say a human ran, ashamed of what he'd seen. The truth would be quieter. A scared girl, an exhausted engineer, and a stubborn warrior chose each other in the empty spaces between stars. They chose to build instead of bow, to protect instead of profit, to become a spark in the dark. It wasn't neat. It wasn't clean. It sure as hell wasn't safe. But as Lyrielle's head drooped against her harness and she drifted into exhausted sleep, as Serai's hand brushed the controls like she was soothing a living thing, as the compass glowed with the steady pulse of a heart that refused to stop, I realized I wouldn't have traded it for all the quiet, simple days in the galaxy. "Hey," I said softly. Serai glanced over. "Yes?" "When this is over," I said, "when we've burned out the traitors and yelled at our respective governments and stopped running, what then?" She considered. "Then," she said slowly, "I will take you on a proper flight, not a battle run, not a hurried escape. We will find a calm world with gentle air and open sky. We will float, and Lyrielle will complain that it is boring, and you will pretend not to be moved. A leisure flight," I said, "like a balloon ride, but with more structural integrity." "Yes," she said, "and if you wish, we will call it a date." Heat hit my face. "You're assuming a lot," I said. "Yes," she said, "I am learning from humans." Outside, the stars wheeled. Ahead, the old paths waited, hidden and patient. Beside me, an alien warrior plotted rebellion with the calm of someone choosing wallpaper. Across from us, an alien princess dreamed of home, and of building one bigger, stranger, and freer than anyone had allowed her before. I grinned, despite everything. "Yeah," I murmured to the uncaring void, "humanity's here. Try and keep up." The ship slid into the dark like it had always belonged there. Hours, maybe days. Time blurred in the in-between, passed in a low hum of engines and soft beeps from the nav. Lyrielle slept through most of it, curled under a blanket too big for her, the compass resting against her chest. Every so often it would flicker, as if adjusting to the new routes Serai coaxed from the ship's aging drives. We swapped shifts. When I wasn't at the controls with Serai, I was checking seals, jury-rigging a bulky conduit, or trying to convince the galley dispenser that coffee meant something stronger than bitter brown water. When Serai wasn't flying, she was sharpening blades with unnecessary focus, quietly rerouting power flows, or just watching us. Like she still didn't entirely believe we were real. On the 3rd waking cycle, I walked into the cockpit to find Lyrielle in the pilot's chair, tiny hands resting on the controls. Serai stood behind her, one hand on the back of the seat, guiding. "Again," Serai said. Lyrielle adjusted a dial. The ship made a small course correction. The stars outside shifted 1 degree. "How did I do?" Lyrielle asked. "We are still pointed at our destination," Serai said. "Therefore, adequately." Lyrielle squinted. "You may say I did well." Serai's mouth twitched. "You did. Acceptable plus." Lyrielle groaned. "You are worse than Jace." I leaned in the doorway. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me." Lyrielle jumped up from the seat and barreled into me in a hug that nearly knocked me over. "You were sleeping forever," she accused. "I was out for 6 hours, I said, patting her back. "Your ship cycles too fast." "It cycles correctly," Serai said. "Your body is inefficient." "I'm wounded," I said. "You were already wounded," she replied. "The bruise on your jaw is developing new colors." I touched it, winced. "Yeah, security guy had a mean right hook." "I saw worse," she said. "You got back up. That is what matters." There was something in the way she said it that made my chest tighten. "What's our status?" I asked, stepping closer to the console. Serai brought up a holo, A faint smudge hung at the edge of the display, a nebula, wisps of gas curling like ink in water. "We are approaching an old listening post," she said. "Abandoned before my grandparents' time, the pathmakers used it to monitor the currents. It is hidden inside that nebula." "And no one else knows it's there?" "Almost no one," she said, "which is fewer than the number of people trying to kill us. I find this acceptable." Lyrielle climbed into the secondary chair, pulling her knees up. "Will there be gravity?" "Yes," Serai said, "and air, and walls. I know your human needs." "Showers," I said. "Say showers." She considered. "Water still runs through some of the pipes. We may convince it to fall in the direction you prefer." "Now that's romance," I muttered. Her markings brightened a shade. We dropped into the nebula a few hours later. The ship's exterior lights carved tunnels through blue and violet clouds, scattering particles in shimmering arcs. Static crawled along my skin. The sensors whined in protest. Then, out of the mist, it appeared. The old station was half skeleton, half shadow. A ring structure with spokes leading to a central hub, its surface dark and pitted. No running lights, no transponders, just a hulking silhouette tucked neatly into a denser patch of gas. "Looks cozy," I said. "It looks dead," Lyrielle whispered. "That is the point," Serai said. "Dead things are ignored." She threaded the ship through a gap in the ring with the easy confidence of someone who'd flown in zero visibility more times than she could count. As we aligned with an ancient docking port, she glanced at me. "Jace Rowen," she said, "if the atmosphere fails, if the gravity flickers, if something leaks, do not complain." "Is there a circumstance in which I get to complain?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "If you die, you may file a formal grievance." We docked with a soft, resonant clang. The airlock cycled slowly, old mechanisms groaning back into motion as if waking from a long sleep. A blast of stale, cold air met us when the inner hatch opened. The station interior was dim, lit only by emergency strips and the pale glow of our helmets. Dust floated in lazy spirals. My boots echoed on the metal as we stepped through. Lyrielle stayed between us, hand in mine, other hand resting on the compass. "This is eerie," I said. "This is history," Serai replied. "The old paths did not vanish. Our people simply forgot to listen." We moved through ring corridors and up into the central hub. The architecture was different from any modern design I'd seen, everything curved, no hard angles, panels grown into each other rather than bolted. At intervals, faint etchings ran along the walls, half-worn symbols that made Lyrielle's markings glow faintly when she passed them. "It knows you," I said. "It knows the compass," she corrected. "I am just carrying it." At the hub's core, we found what we were looking for, a control chamber ringed with old consoles. Most were dark. One still flickered, very faint, like an eye refusing to close. Serai approached it with something like reverence. "The pathmakers used this place to map the routes," she said, "to test new currents, to listen for storms in the void." "Can it talk to your people?" I asked. "If we wish," she said, "it's quietly, in ways the traitors will not easily hear. It uses old frequencies buried under later noise." She laid her palm against the console. Her markings brightened, lines of light flowing from her skin into the panel. The console sighed, then glowed more steadily. "I can stabilize gravity in the residential ring," she said, "and power 3 of the environmental processors, enough for warmth and air and minimal lighting." "Luxury," I said. Lyrielle spun slowly, taking it all in. "This will be our first spire," she said. Serai looked over her shoulder. "It is a ruin." "Then we will mend it," Lyrielle said stubbornly. "That is what Jace does. He fixes broken things and complains while doing so." "Harsh, but fair," I said. She pointed at one of the dark alcoves. "That can be the training hall, and that will be where we eat. And up there," she gestured toward a higher ring, We will make windows so we can see the nebula, and it will feel less like a tomb. Serai's mouth softened. Little star, she said. We do not even know who will stand with us yet. We will, Lyrielle said, and Jace, and later others. There are always others. Mamara used to say, if you light a small flame in the dark, fools fear it, and the brave come closer. Your mother was very optimistic, Serai murmured. She married my father, Lyrielle said. She was also very foolish. Serai smiled just a little. Then she nodded to me. Rowen, while I coax life into this place, I would have you secure what you can, weapons, tools, any functioning systems. We will need inventory. Yes, Commander, I said. She raised a brow. I have not taken that title in some time. It suits you, I said. Her markings warmed a fraction. We split up. I scavenged. Lyrielle followed me like a small, glowing shadow, pointing out panels with faint energy signatures that my scanner had missed. Together we found an intact storage bay with emergency rations that were only mildly terrifying, a water recycler in need of coaxing, and 3 old drones that looked like they could be bullied into working. At one point in a narrow corridor, Lyrielle stopped. Jace, she said, yeah? Are you happy? The question was so unexpected I almost dropped the crate I was carrying. Right now? I asked. Yes. I thought about the station under attack. The fact that I was probably wanted in at least 2 jurisdictions, the cold air, the creaking metal, the knowledge that we'd picked a fight with people who controlled more guns and ships than I could count. Then I thought about the way Lyrielle laughed when the gravity flickered and made her hair float, and how Serai's eyes softened when she thought we weren't looking, and how the old station hummed faintly now, like a throat clearing before a song. Yeah, I said. Weirdly, yeah. You? She considered. My ship burned. My people are in danger. I am far from home, but I'm not alone. So, the answer is complicated. That's how you know it's real, I said. Simple happy is usually sugar and denial. She nodded, very solemn. Then I am complicated happy? Good attain, I said. Let's keep it that way. By the time we regrouped in the central chamber, the station felt less like a tomb and more like the skeleton of something that could live again. Light strips glowed along the floors. The air had warmed enough that I couldn't see my breath. One of the consoles projected a hovering map of nearby space. Routes, currents, possible choke points. Serai stood with her hands clasped behind her back, studying it. Report, she said as we entered. We have food, water, and 3 drones that might not explode, I said, which, in my experience, qualifies as a party. And we have rooms, Lyrielle added. I chose one. It has a good corner for thinking. Excellent, Serai said. We will need much thinking. I stepped up beside her, eyeing the map. What's the plan long term? First, she said, we listen. This station was built to hear whispers in the void. We will turn its ears toward our enemies, find their roots, learn who works with them in your union. Espionage, I said. Nice. Second, she continued, we gather. There are those among my people who still honor their oaths, and among yours there will be some who cannot stomach what is being done in the shadows. And third? I asked. Third, she said calmly, we cut out the rot and make something better in its place. Lyrielle slipped her hand into hers. Fourth, she added, we have a festival. Serai blinked down at her. Festival. Yes, Lyrielle said, when we win. Jace says humans mark their victories with loud noises and terrible singing. We should do the same. Serai looked at me. You told her this? Sounds like me, I admitted. Her eyes gleamed. Then we will plan for a festival. She turned fully toward me then, closer now than the map required. Rowen, she said softly, this path will not be short. There will be losses, sacrifices, days when we wonder if we were wrong. Sounds like Tuesday, I said, her lips curved. Will you walk it with us, still? After the adrenaline fades? I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I said, for as long as you'll have me. Lyrielle rolled her eyes. Humans are so dramatic. You say that like it's a bad thing, I said. It is tiring, she declared, but also warm. She stepped back, lifting the compass. Its light reflected in both our faces. Then I will say it, she announced. Here, in this knot spire, in front of both of you and the old paths. She took a breath. Jace Rowen, she said, you are my shield. Serai of the Guard, you are my blade. I am your star. Together we will not be lost. The compass pulsed. The station hummed back, as if acknowledging the vow. Serai looked at her, then at me. We have been claimed, she said quietly. Yeah, I said. Could be worse clubs to join. Her hand brushed mine, brief, deliberate, sparking that same warm static as before. Later, she said, voice barely above a whisper, for me alone. When we are not patching holes and chasing traitors, I expect that date. I swallowed. You plan ahead? Yes, she said, someone in this rebellion must. Lyrielle groaned theatrically. If you begin making courting noises, I will move to another station. You are 12, Serai said dryly. You will stay where I can see you. I am 11, Lyrielle said, and I see you. She pointed at our joined hands. Serai flushed. I laughed. For a moment in the half-lit heart of an abandoned listening post with a lost princess sassing her guardian and a warrior pretending she wasn't flustered, the weight of conspiracies and wars and old grudges thinned. We were just 3 people in the dark, choosing each other. Come on, I said. Let's get this place ready for your festival. Someone has to make sure the terrible singing is properly acoustically supported. Lyrielle grinned. Serai shook her head, but the corner of her mouth betrayed her. Outside the nebula swirled. Inside, under old metal and older promises, a human, a child of a broken house and a tired soldier, started building something new. It wasn't much, but it was ours. And for now, for this strange, fragile, impossible now, that was enough. It turned out enough. Lasted about 3 days. On the 4th, the station woke me up with a screaming, alarm, and the distinct smell of burned circuits. I rolled out of the bunk, hit the deck with a curse, and sprinted barefoot into the corridor. The gravity flickered twice, just long enough to make me bounce awkwardly off a wall like a badly thrown ball. Serai, I yelled. Tell me that's the coffee machine exploding? It is not the coffee machine, her voice replied through the old intercom. Control hub, now. Lyrielle shot out of a side passage as I passed, hair wild, compass already in her hands. Is it them again? She demanded. Let's hope not, I said. The control chamber was a riot of light. The central hollow flickered with incoming data. Band after band of distorted signal. One of the consoles had blown a capacitor. Smoke curled from a panel Serai was attempting to beat back into cooperation with a maintenance rod. She didn't look up as we entered. The station's long-range ears still work, she said. Unfortunately, they have decided to hear everything at once. Everything what? I asked. Your union, she said. My people and someone else. She slammed a final command into the console. The noise cut out, replaced by 3 clean channels, each marked with a different frequency signature. Rowen, she said, you may want to hear this. She tapped the first line. A hollow projection shimmered into the air. Union newsfeed. A presenter with perfect teeth and a perfectly insincere expression stood in front of graphics of ALIS 4's orbit. Still no official statement on the alleged destruction of Survey Outpost 7's comm array, she was saying. Sources within the Peace Division confirm an ongoing investigation into possible sabotage and internal corruption. Meanwhile, questions mount about the disappearance of one Jace Rowen, formerly of the Survey Corps, who is now wanted for questioning in connection with... Serai cut the channel. Well, I said, at least they used a good picture of me. Lyrielle frowned. They are blaming you? Partially, I said. It's fine. I've been blamed for less impressive disasters. Your union is ungrateful, she declared. Welcome to politics, I said. Serai tapped the second line. This time the hollow showed an ornate hall, tall archways, banners, a floor that gleamed like still water. A Lytheran official stood at a podium, voice sharp as glass. "Tragic loss of the diplomatic convoy," she was saying. "House Sauron grieves with us all. Until the investigation concludes, the status of Princess Lyrielle must be considered missing, presumed." Serai killed the feed before the last word landed. Lyrielle's hand found mine, grip iron tight. "They declared me dead," she whispered. "They declared you convenient," Serai said, voice low. "Dead means no one has to look too closely at who fired the first shot." "Your council is also ungrateful," I said. Serai's jaw flexed. "Some of them are frightened, some are complicit. Between those two is a thin line of people trying not to drown." "Then we talk to them," I said, "and from here, quietly." "We will," she said. "But first, listen." She tapped the third channel. The voice that came through wasn't broadcast slick or ceremonial. It was rough, tired, recorded on equipment that buzzed faintly in the background. "To any ship listening on the old paths," it said, "this is Captain Rian Tor of the Free Trader Hearthlight. If this relay still works, if anyone still remembers how to tune to it, then hear this. Something's wrong in the currents. Patrol routes changing without notice. Convoys lost. People who ask questions disappearing. We've heard rumors of Pathmaker tech being moved in secret, and of a child who survived when she should not have." Lyrielle sucked in a breath. The voice continued. "If you're out there," Rian said, "if you're hiding, if you're planning something, you're not alone. There are captains, crews, stations that won't bow to whatever this is. We're listening, we're waiting, we just need a signal to gather." The message looped, then cut. Silence settled over the chamber. Serai looked at me. I looked at Lyrielle. Lyrielle looked at the compass. It pulsed once, twice. "I think," she said, "we have just found our first guests for the festival." Serai exhaled slowly. "It seems so." "We can reach them?" I asked. "Yes," Serai said, "the same way they reached us, through the old frequencies the traitors have forgotten." "Then we send a reply," I said. "We tell them the rumors are true. The child lived. The rot is real. And there's a place that's ready to start pushing back." Lyrielle straightened, shoulders squaring in a way I recognized from watching her mother's envoy on the hollow. "We will invite them," she said. "Why, not to a court, to a work site." Serai's lips curved. "Spoken like a Sauron." "Spoken like someone who's been listening to humans complain while they repair things?" Lyrielle said primly. Serai moved to the console, fingers flying. "I will craft the message," she said, "but the voice should be yours, Lyri. They must hear who you are, what you have survived." Lyrielle swallowed. "What if I say the wrong thing?" "Then we edit," I said. "Trust me, no one gets speeches right the first time." She took a deep breath. "All right," she whispered. "What must I say?" "Start with the truth," Serai said. "It's the most dangerous thing we have." We spent the next hour shaping it. Lyrielle's words. Serai's strategy. My knack for knowing which phrases would land with human ears and which would sound like distant thunder. When we were done, Lyrielle stood in front of the active console, compass glowing at her throat, and spoke into an open channel that hadn't carried a living voice in generations. "This is Lyrielle of House Sauron," she said, voice steady. "They say I am dead. They are wrong. I am here, between stars, with those who will not bow to the ones who burned our ships and silenced our questions." Her gaze flicked to me, then to Serai. "If you feel the currents shifting under your feet," she went on, "if you have lost people you were told to forget, if you are tired of pretending that the dark is normal, come. We have an old station. We have air and walls and work. We have a human who can fix things that should not work. We have a warrior who remembers her oaths. We have a compass that still points home, even when home has lost its way." The compass pulsed, as if on cue. We are small, she said. We are not enough, but we will be more if you join us. She hesitated, then added softer, and when we have healed the paths, there will be a festival. She cut the transmission. For a heartbeat, none of us breathed. Then the console pinged. Already? I asked. That was fast. No reply, Serai said, just acknowledgement. The relay accepted our message. It will bounce it through the old network, slow but sure. So now we wait, I said. Yes, she said, and prepare. Lyrielle looked between us, eyes bright. We began with 3, she said. Soon there will be more, and then we will not be hiding. We will be something else. A problem, I said. A solution, Serai countered. Lyrielle smiled, a small, fierce thing that somehow made the old station feel warmer. A home, she said. The alarms were quiet now. The consoles hummed. Outside, the nebula swirled, uncaring and beautiful. I slipped an arm around Lyrielle's shoulders. On my other side, Serai stood close enough that our sleeves brushed. None of us moved away. Welcome to the beginning, I said. It wasn't tidy, it wasn't safe, it sure as hell wasn't simple. But as first chapters of rebellions go, I'd seen worse. And the universe had just been put on notice that one human, one lost princess, and one very stubborn alien warrior were done playing by anyone else's script. The pulse of the console faded into a steady, quiet glow. Lyrielle tucked the compass close to her chest. Serai powered down the last array, and for the first time since everything fell apart, the station felt less like a hiding place and more like a beginning. A small new future, humming in the dark. I leaned against the rail overlooking the swirling nebula outside the viewport. Serai stood beside me, arms crossed, gaze softer than she'd ever let anyone else see. Lyrielle perched on the console near us, kicking her feet, humming a tune her mother used to sing. We are not enough yet, Serai murmured. No, I said, but we're here. She nodded once. Firm. Certain. Lyrielle hopped down and wedged herself between us, wrapping one hand around each of ours. A shield, she said, looking at me. A blade, she said, looking at Serai. A star, she added, lifting the compass. And 3 is where every great story begins. Serai exhaled, almost a laugh. You speak like your mother. Lyrielle lifted her chin proudly. I plan to do many impossible things. I squeezed her hand. Good, because we're building a life out of them. Outside, the nebula rolled in slow waves of violet and gold. Inside, the station buzzed as old systems warmed to life. Somewhere far across the stars, a traitor named Rientor was hearing a message that would change the course of a dozen lives. And here, now, in the quiet center of all that danger and hope and maybe madness, we stood together, found family, beginning rebels, survivors. Ready? I asked. Lyrielle nodded. Serai nodded, and in a way that mattered, the old station seemed to nod too. Yeah, we were ready. Whatever came next. The end. If you enjoyed this story of found family, alien royalty, and one human who refuses to stay out of trouble, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more HFY sci-fi romances and interstellar adventures.